Sue Bennett gives us an idea of what it's all about.
We're going to do a portrait of Lars Borgeson, a metal sculptor, and we've decided to come to his shop largely because he's got all of his great objects here, his things that he's interested in right now, his great new glasses, the earrings. Everything that's here, I think, is going to help us make a nicer shot because we're going to be able to rely on Lars to help us understand what's interesting to him, what he finds wonderful about brass, steel, all these metal objects. And the reason that we bring a canvas in is because we want to isolate Lars from the busy background that we've got going on here. And I think it helps us make more of a portrait of Lars and less of a picture of his shop. And what I want to get at is what Lars is all about. And a little, what we want out of this picture is a little hint about why Lars does what he does for a living and why he's so good at it. The most interesting way to photograph him is to let him direct a large part of what goes on in the shot. And the things that interest him will tend to be more interesting in the picture, I think. And we'll just keep him in that same general spot where you were, Cage. So you can come back on that canvas.
She told you to move it, yeah.
Right here. And then just twist the bike a little bit, yeah, so it picks up the sunlight. Okay, that's a little bit too much back. And then just let it lean back up against you. Yeah. Lars, we're gonna do a pretty tight shot where we're gonna lose a little bit of the bottom of the black part of the wheels so that the bottom of the frame is really gonna just be the curve of the bike.
Do you want me to hold it up?
We can maybe do some, but we're gonna start off with it on the ground, and we're gonna start off with you. And I want to just sort of get a little bit of feeling of motion in your stance.
Yeah,
so I want you to be just in this
that one
forward.
time we went over it to have like the heel up.
Yeah, heel up works.
Heel up, maybe this foot. You want? It doesn't need
But
to
I
be
still
seen.
want you in the bike. I don't want you to get in front of the bike. I want you to be like
Yeah,
even.
you want my
even
center
with
of gravity
the bike.
like
Yeah.
right over the point.
Right over the spike. Okay. Okay, let's do the wind machine. And Janine, if you would just
You need to stand like this.
watch the scarf for us. I'm just gonna twist this around a little bit so we have more potential out here. The first shot that we did of Lars, we used a portrait program, which softens the background, gives you a narrow depth of field. We wanted to take advantage of the wind machine and the scarf and the movement, and we wanted to have a little blurred action to the scarf. So we wanted to use a slower shutter speed. So using the little command dial, it switches you into this flexible program that changes your f-stop and your shutter speed, but you can dictate, you control where you're going with it. And we wanted to go to a slower shutter speed. So we went all the way from a 30th of a second to a quarter of a second, and it compensated by changing our f-stop for us as we went down through these different shutter speeds in order to get different amounts of blurring and movement to the scarf. We used the classic format, and for our purposes, for that particular shot, it just happened to fill the frame best. And for all these different formats, I mean, for every format that you choose, you're gonna consider what's in front of your camera, and sometimes you will want to fill the frame really tightly or fill the format very tightly. Other times you want space, you want negative space left in there for, creative reasons. I mean, it's up to everybody how they fill the frame. So this is kind of cool because you can choose from all these different formats. For the hand detail shot of Lars, we wanted to look at these hands that are there's these great artist hands, and they're really these big, thick, strong hands, and they're also very damaged and very cut up. And I just think it's a wonderful detail, these artist hands. So we wanted to do the shot of his hands holding his favorite mallet, and then across the center of his body, then we can take advantage of all this great texture that he's got in the overalls that he wears every day. And so we used aperture priority in order to be able to stop down and get a lot of depth of field so that we could get all that detail very sharp. Then we just used the full frame format because, again, that happened to be what the subject dictated. It just seemed to fill the frame best. So we're using the 20 to 60 on this shot and the hyperfocal feature so that we can get Lars and the bike in focus as well as the Airstream and the clay hills behind us. And since we're not going to be using a tripod, I usually try and make myself into a tripod. And this is one thing that comes in real handy when you're shooting at a slow shutter speed and you can't find a tripod to use. Like, find a post, get down on the ground, make yourself into a tripod, hold the camera very steady in one hand, releasing the shutter with the other,